Okay, hanging out. Know the score episode I lost count with Tyler and Jesse for the culture in five, four, three, two.
You are listening to Know the Score, presented by the CSPN. Visit our website at knowthescore.cspn.us. Follow us on Twitter at KTSPod and keep the conversation going using the hashtag KTSPod. You can listen to us on a variety of platforms via iTunes, Stitcher Smart Radio, the TuneIn, SoundCloud apps, or directly via our website at cspn.us. All right, this episode is for the culture, and we got plenty of reasons why we're going to talk about that. I am your host, Tyler Ball. I'm here with That So Jesse. You can reach our Twitters. Jesse's is That So Jesse, and my Twitter is TA Ball #1. What's going on, Jess?
I'm doing good. Life in the city. How are you?
I'm good. My to let's say, I guess, quote our fellow co-host Tobias Wilborn, life be lifing.
Doesn't it always?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, going immediately into this week's events and a little some of last week. Let's just talk about the playoffs.
Okay.
Round one is over. As you guys know, at this recording, we've beginning. Round two is pretty much underway. We all know that this past weekend the Utah Jazz upset the Los Angeles Clippers in Game 7 behind the efforts of Joe Johnson, and now the questions begin. First of all, do you break up the LA Clippers?
I don't know. I'm sure one of them, maybe two, in Blake Griffin and or DeAndre Jordan will probably will be traded out. But as for breaking up, man, I don't know. You might have to trade a piece, but I'm not sure about a whole dismantling of the entire team. Yeah, but I mean, we've been saying every game, it's like, are they going to break up? I think also what has to be looked at is the coaching aspect, and the coach as a GM model never really sat well with me, because you can coach the players and evaluate talent. It's not really a successful model, especially in the NBA. So maybe they need to also look at Doc Rivers as a GM and the head coach as well. But as for breaking up, I know those pieces won't be there. That's for sure.
I'm at the point where you can have Chris Paul. You're not going to upgrade over Chris Paul. Actually, breaking up this team to put them back in the bottom of the West, to me, is just I think it's counterproductive. I think you want to you can do a retool, which means you let JJ Redick go get his money.
Right.
But I think you keep the core of Jordan, Paul, and Griffin together, only because you really haven't had a legitimate shot the past 3 years with these three guys on the court together. Now, mind you, they haven't played well together in the playoffs.
And someone's
Maybe it
always
be bad
injured
matchups or
yeah.
Griffin getting injured, and DeAndre you're essentially playing 4-on-5 on offense with Jordan if he's not catching lobs. We know all that, but the real problem is they have not been able to Doc has not been able to get a legitimate small forward in there. The small forward has been a revolving door in LA. I mean, you've had Paul Pierce, which we'll get to in a minute, Matt Barnes twice, even Caron Butler, who talked about the situation this week.
Wait, is he still in the league?
No.
I'll Google that.
Butler's out.
Okay.
Butler actually retired because he's got a medical issue that that he's trying to figure out.
Oh.
But let's see. You've tried Butler. You've even tried Jamal. You've even tried to go small and put Jamal Crawford at the 3, and defensively that's just not going to work, as we saw, because Joe Johnson just backed them down anytime he wanted, and that's actually was the problem in the old series. Nobody could match up with Joe Johnson as the old man with
Who thought it
with
was?
the YMCA game at 6'8". He's about 6'8", still about 220, 230, and he can go in the post, but he can still shoot over just about anybody who tries to guard him. And
Right.
he hit a game winner, actually a buzzer beater in game 1, which woke everybody up. And then he was a big impact in games 3 and 7. I mean, games 3, 5, and 7, where he just hit shot after shot and floater after floater because he could get to anywhere he wanted to. You know, a lot of people want to get on Chris Paul and saying that Paul's not a leader, so on and so forth. Most of your Clipper current and former teammates say that's not the case with Paul. Paul just isn't the guy that you are going to have to depend on to, get 40 in a game, because he's still got to get everybody involved. So, he may be capable, but he's just not that type of guy. That team is not set up for him to do that. It's hard for somebody to have to go get 40, then get everybody around him shots. Now, James Harden's in a separate situation because he's surrounded by shooters and he picks his spots. That's different. Russell Westbrook has the same problem. He doesn't have the shooters. He can probably pick his spots, but there's too much pressure on him to have to do everything. The Clippers are just in a conundrum. I mean, you blow it up now, you're gonna go back to being the Clippers, and LA didn't have 2 bad teams.
Right. Like, I mean, the Clippers breaking up now, what would they break up to be? Like that team we've known for the past, 30 years or so?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean,
to me, I think you don't break up a winner. You don't break up a winner because somehow, some way, if you keep playing the law averages, you're going to get an opportunity to actually win. You never know. Somebody may come up with an injury. I mean, of course, your nemesis are the Warriors. And the way you're set up, you're not going to beat the Warriors. You just have to luck up on an injury or luck up on a trade or something that happens to Golden State. And that could very well happen because somebody on that squad's got to go get paid.
right. And then also, with this whole emergence of the Warriors, you can't. I mean, we look at the teams that are in the West. You have the Warriors, because of course, San Antonio. You have, I'm trying to think of the third team.
Houston.
Yeah, Houston. Like you had to have some pretty decent teams in the mix. It's not going to turn out to be everyone who is in playoff contention is, is going to be winning the title. Yet, for what on one hand, for where they've been, it's, they've rose to some sort of prominence over the last 3, 4, 5 years, rather than just like middling and mediocrity. But at the same time, you have to do what you have to do in order to challenge for that top prize. So, like you said, sure, there's some changes that have to be made, but what? I don't think wholesale changes need to be made, but maybe, like I said, the evaluation of talent, you might have to get someone else in there as well.
Yeah, I think that actually might be the move. I mean, it's going to eventually point to Doc, and Doc is constantly on Ballmer's ear. So I don't know if Ballmer is ready to make that kind of shocking move and remove GM duties from Doc.
I want to tell these coaches, like, it's okay not to be coach and GM. Like, it's totally okay. You focus on being that CEO of your team while someone goes out there. It's like, I've seen this guy play over this amount of time. It's okay to leave someone else to
This
give someone
this
else that power. But
this isn't, no, not everybody's a Belichick. Let's put it that way.
mm-hmm.
not everybody, not everybody has that brilliant mind. Um, so we move on. As far uh, as the Western Conference. Before we get to the Western Conference, of course, that was the last game for uh, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer Paul Pierce, who is definitely a first ballot once he gets in. He's going to always be remembered for being the Boston savior after the Pitino years were terrible, and he pretty much put Boston back on the map with the help of Danny Ainge and, of course, and Kevin McHale,
Yeah.
bringing that big three together and bringing Boston a title and another NBA Finals appearance. Of course, eventually Danny, in a wheeling and dealing, sent the big three over to Brooklyn, and of course, that even though that didn't work out, it still managed to keep Paul in the league, and Paul had an affection with Doc Rivers, so Doc tried to bring him over to LA, and even though that eventually didn't work out, and Paul ended up his legs just gave out on him. He still hit some clutch shots, but
Mm-hmm.
the game just sped by him pretty much, in particular in the Western Conference. Uh, but you can't erase his greatness. Inner city kid, grew up in Inglewood. Uh, he's had some legendary games. 3-point specialist, which I think is actually an underrated part of his game because he was so explosive early on in his career. He learned how to be a great 3-point shooter. Uh, and to me, he's one of the better small forwards that we've seen in this generation. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think the bar in the Naismith Hall of Fame, I think the bar was lowered when uh, when Tracy McGrady got in on the first ballot. So I think that when you compare Pierce to McGrady, and especially when you add the championships and a college career that was a major success, you got to get him in on the first ballot.
Yep. I agree.
Any reflections on Pierce?
I remember when he was a Wizard. I remember when he hit 2 clutch shots in a playoff series against Boston. I believe that was now 2
Right.
seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so everyone around here was chanting the truth, and that's what you said about his ability to hit clutch shots. Definitely, go down in people's memories, and when he gets into the Hall of Fame, I'm sure we'll be playing that over and over and over again. So
Yeah, definitely. I think that Shaquille O'Neal would be the perfect guy to induct him, just because he gave him the nickname "The Truth," and it's stuck to him. Uh, just Shaq being Shaq, and he was just frustrated because his guys could not guard him. Uh, but yeah, that was after one of a regular season clutch shot, and he just said, "Yeah, the guy is the truth." Period. So that's really going to be his legacy. Uh, and it'll definitely be a celebration. I think 5 years from now when he goes in. Uh, moving on to the rest of the Western Conference. Uh, as we know, the Spurs and the Rockets, uh, Jazz are going to play the Warriors as we record this tonight on Tuesday evening. The Rockets have already impressed. They destroyed the Spurs in game 1. Uh, made 22 out of 53s. And I think that's just going to be the way that series goes, to be honest. Um, I don't know what adjustments um, Pop is going to make. Like he's going to have to get something from his bench, probably even more so because, well, LaMarcus Aldridge got to show up too.
Hmm.
Anything you see with Houston and San Antonio?
So I watched part of this game last night just because those games come on late. Um, but I personally think that this will. I'm gonna guess this will go to 7, but I think San Antonio will find a way to. I think Pop will find a way to. Sorry, I think Pop will find a way to adjust and play to the Rockets. Play adjust to what the Rockets have been giving. But I'm just saying that because I hate watching. Not like I hate watching the Rockets play, but I don't like watching James Harden play. Like it's flopping everywhere. I'm just like
Harden,
I'm
one of those
done. I
guys.
can't. Like
Harden
so speaking
is a
of which, so,
polarizing guy.
hmm
Polarizing because
he's so great
you know
offensively, but
he
it's just
has
like
a yeah.
he twirls like
It's
yeah.
he contorts his body, he does all the stuff to get foul calls. But if he just left that to just playing skilled basketball, he's a very skilled player. Always has
Hmm.
been. Even back in Arizona in college. He was definitely the best player on the floor most of the time when he touches the court. But now he's learned how to use his body like the great shooting guards have, the Reggie Millers and the Kobe Bryants and the Jordans, where they know how to kick their body out and how to initiate contact. So he's kind of hard to watch, and he gets tons and tons of free throws, which makes up for his. Sometimes he's inefficient, but
That and like
as
lack
long
of
as you go to the
defense.
line,
Hmm.
and he's damn near 90% shooter. So that's what you're going to see, a lot of cheap fouls and free throws, which kind of sucks because their offense itself flows freely, and that is fun to watch.
Right. I just can't do it. I don't want to watch that anymore.
Speaking of not wanting to watch, you got the Warriors and the Jazz coming on tonight. Um, I'm not sure if I can watch this because the Jazz are going to try to slow the game to a crawl, especially with the guards, with Hood and Gordon Hayward and Dotson. I mean, you don't know if they're going to go small to push. They cannot, absolutely cannot push the tempo against the Warriors because the Warriors will destroy them. So you're going to have to see game in order for the Jazz to even have a chance. They have to hope that Durant or Clay or Stephen, 2 of the 3, have off nights, and they just have to grind it out with Gobert and Joe Johnson in the post against one of the smaller guards, and they have to get some scoring from Rodney Hood and probably um, another threat. I don't know if it's going to be it's the awkward lefty that shoots threes in it. I forgot his name, but um, he's going to have to hit shots,
Hmm.
and Hayward is going to have to be great
Right.
for them to even keep it close. Or I'm so ready to say this is going to be a sweep, and they're just going to essentially wait for the winner of Houston and San Antonio, and they'll probably get at least 2 games. They may finish 2 games before the Rockets and Spurs do. So that's just my take on anything Jazz and Warriors.
I think a gentleman's suite could be a not. Yeah, I think a gentleman's suite could be a thing, but I can see a game where they're going to slip up. I don't know where, but in this series, if there's a game that I think Golden State can slip up, and I think it can do this at 4-1. I mean, it'll be a quick 4-1, but 4-1 nonetheless.
Yeah, let's say game 3 in Utah.
I could say
Will
game
probably
one.
be. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Oh,
I'm gonna be different. Or
oh,
actually, no.
they'll take one or two in Oakland Arena. Okay.
Yeah, just because like you know how there's times that they can start off so flat-footed and they just don't hit that third gear.
Could be tonight. Yeah.
Could be. Why not?
Okay. Quick move to the Eastern Conference. Um, we're already into round two. Just any takes uh, just on round one. Any takeaways
Hmm.
from round one or
The
um,
East. I mean, as we all know, the East is Cleveland and pretty much everybody else. With the Celtics, I didn't think they would. With all that swirling with Isaiah Thomas and then being slow to get into playoff basketball. And now in this now in this series between the Wizards and the Celtics, now that we see them in that second gear, I think that the series might pass us quicker than we think. Um, so that maybe you could say, oh, they're playing with a purpose, or oh, they're finally putting the pieces together. The thing is like with the Wizards, for example, in the last series with Atlanta, it was kind of start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And I think that might hurt whatever, well, not chances, but it can hurt them. It hurts their chances against the Celtics. I'll say it like that.
um, my thing with Boston after watching okay, first of all, Boston was impressive, winning four straight. Um, after the Bulls went up 0-2, obviously you lose Rajon
And
Rondo, which changed that
0-2
entire
against the worst
series.
team in these playoffs. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And essentially, Rondo pretty much put Isaiah Thomas on his heels on the defensive end, which is what you have to do uh, to beat Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, unfortunately for the Bulls, after losing Rondo, they had no answers for Thomas. Thomas Thomas did pretty much whatever he wanted to against Isaiah Cannon and Michael Carter Williams. Uh, I thought they were going to at least try uh, Jimmy Butler or Wade on him, but even then, once they did that, that just opened it up for the Celtic forwards to attack the rim and Jarenko and Crowder and of course Avery Bradley, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Uh, he actually defended pretty well against Wade and Butler the last two games, which led to uh, convincing wins. Game six was a blowout. Game six had 12 minutes of garbage time. They were up
Mm-hmm.
33 in the going into the fourth quarter. It's horrible. Um,
Proving why they just need to get them up out of there in the first place.
yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that just looking at Toronto, my main takeaway from game one, other than my Wizards thing that's coming up next, uh, I really like Jason Kidd and the Milwaukee Bucks. I've been calling them Team Pterodactyl this playoff run. I like the philosophy where you go with length all over the court, but now you got to put it together offensively and you got to be able to make shots. And that's the only reason why they couldn't beat Toronto. Uh, they could defend. They frustrated the Raptors, but eventually DeMar DeRozan took over after being shut out from the field in Game 4. He came back and dominated Game 5, and they just had no answers. Um, Giannis now sees where he's going to have to work on his perimeter game in order to be a complete player. Uh, you got Chris Middleton, who's going to get better. Thon Maker, who's still figuring things out, is probably going to be one of the better defensive players in the league once his talent catches up with his ability. He will be a shutdown player. Probably one of your better shutdown defenders, probably since Michael Cooper. As far as long arm, long limbed, can cover any position. He actually has that talent. There was a sequence where he was literally step for step from half court all the way to the baseline with Kyle Lowry, and Lowry couldn't get a shot off just because just because of Maker's wingspan. Kid's got himself a team.
Mm-hmm.
If they can find another wing who can get them some baskets, or they can find a go-to guy that can get them a basket when need be, they're going to flip flop with Toronto and be the 4 seed and maybe have a chance to see a team like a Boston or a Cleveland in the second round. But that's definitely on the upswing, and their brass isn't scared to spend money. And besides, no Jabari Parker, which
Mm-hmm.
some say that might be addition by subtraction because Parker kind of limited the floor space, but he's got length too. And they had John Henson on the bench. So they're sitting on a philosophy that can work in this league, but they're going to have to eventually score points. But that's a team I like to see in the future, how they develop. Just moving forward to round two in the East. What do you think about the Cavs and the Raptors?
Which, no, yeah, let's just get the Raptors up out of here. I mean, what's there to say about that series? I mean, yesterday I saw them, they were up by what, 30? Until they closed the gap till it's about like
Yeah,
10?
they scored 62 points in the first half.
I
It was
get
62 to
them out of my
48 in the
face.
first half. It really. I really hope that Cleveland takes them seriously enough to pull a broom out.
Yeah, just like
Because
play maybe 5 more minutes of defense and then get them out of here expeditiously in 4. I think we'd all appreciate that.
yeah, we really would. Because seriously, Toronto doesn't have enough weapons on the court, and they don't defend well enough either. So they it's gonna be, and you know what, the Raptors are kind of in the situation where the Clippers are, because you're kind of stuck because there's not really much you can do as far as getting another elite guard from, or another elite small forward from, let's say, the Western Conference that's going to make you a threat to Cleveland.
That,
I
and I don't
mean,
think
you're
anyone
kind of in
wants.
no man's land. Excuse me?
Right. And that, and no one really wants to go to Canada.
Exactly. Right. So just I think that, yeah, you're going to be a second star wherever you go, because look at Toronto. You're not going to be the man in Toronto because Austin Matthews of the Maple Leafs is the man. He just took the team that was literally in the bottom of the league to the playoffs in his first year. So he's highly revered in Toronto. I mean, you're not going to be the star. And it's Drake City. So what are you going to do? So the thing is, I don't think that there are enough opportunities off the court for a Raptor to actually be a star in that city, unless they somehow pull it together and um, actually win a championship. But that ain't gonna happen. LeBron's still here
Exactly.
at the end
Yep.
of the day. And of course, okay, now we get to the fun part. Uh, we're gonna talk. We'll talk Wizards. Before we get to Wizards Celtics, we just want to give a shout out to our homie and co-host Tobias Wilborn, who is actually reporter for the Sporting News. After the Game 6, well, before the Game 6 win over the Hawks, Tobias prompted a question to John Wall and Bradley Beal, and you can actually see this on on our account at KTSPod and the NBA account, the post-game interview. Tobias asked John Wall, what did Wall say to rap artists Gucci Mane and Quavo from the Migos? And Wall told him that he was going to go for 40, and Beal would get 30, so they would score 70 and win for the culture.
Yep.
And of course, they actually ended up combining for 73, and they closed out the Hawks in Atlanta.
And that's why we're calling the show For the Culture, because we're going to take this and stamp it before they put For the Culture on every like $2 t-shirt at Urban Outfitters.
Correct. You heard it here first. This is For the Culture. And just to remind you that you are listening to hold on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just a reminder that you're listening to Know the Score on the CSPN. I'm your host, Tyler Ball, and I'm here with Jessie. You can find her at That's So Jessie on Twitter, and you can find me on Twitter at TABall1. Just want to remind you that you can keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit CSPN.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. You can purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel. And for every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends to CSPN a payment that helps keep the Know the Score podcast free and our other great shows free for you. Amazon through CSPN.us. Do it today. If you shop at Amazon often, bookmark the link or add it as your homepage so you can help the CSPN every time you order. And of course, we thank you for your support. We're now back, and we're going to talk about the NFL draft. Very interesting first 3 days. Of course, you know, the draft now, instead of having all rounds on one day, they break it up. The first round and first rounds one day on Thursday, second and third round on Friday, and then the fourth round and so forth on Saturday. We're just going to break down the winners and losers. If you've got a winner and a loser, Jess, what's your takeaway from the draft?
First, I'm going to go with the city of Philadelphia, just for the Philadelphia fans, just making things interesting. Because, you know, they'll boo anybody, but they really booed the hell out of, you know, those NFC East teams once they made a pick. So that was fun for me, because, you know, watching the draft over 3 days. I mean, I had watched, the draft over 3 days, and the Philadelphia crowd getting so hyped with it, and it just made it entertaining for those at home. As for actual winners, it was kind of interesting. It was interesting to see John Lynch like being a legit, well, not just a legit GM, but like making great GM moves. You know, so they had the second pick, they traded out, and the Bears did stupid things with that second. Well, but many would perceive to be stupid things. But you know, just trading picks and getting more and getting some pretty decent players. So they got Solomon Thomas with a third overall pick, because for some reason the Bears just thought to, you know, go up one spot to take Mitch. I'm gonna call him Mitch. I'm gonna say that first to get Mitch Trubisky. So
Call him Mitch. Call him Mitch.
yeah.
I'm in Carolina. Call him Mitch.
So you got Solomon Thomas with that third pick and Reuben Foster at 31. So those are some pretty good picks. And, they also got Akello Witherspoon. Not a bad day. It was not a bad. It was a pretty good draft for the 49ers. I just want to see them get out of mediocrity in some shape or fashion because their mediocrity makes me sad.
Got to find themselves a quarterback, but
that too. But yeah, that's a whole other story for a whole other day.
This is true. Yeah, but that was extremely impressive. My draft winner would be. It's kind of hard to pick because there were several that did the things just right. But I'm gonna go with some sentimental here. I'm taking the Browns for
really.
For
we see this every year about the Browns. Every year, then they find a way to position to get like 5 more draft picks because they suck so bad.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Browns this year. This year, they actually did the right thing. They actually, at least, overall, yes, they did boost themselves, of course, by trading back, but they did take the actual best player in Myles Garrett. They got a bonus to get Jabril Peppers, who they may not know what to do with him, but you don't turn down an athletic talent. He was the best player on the board, and they got him. David Njoku is good enough that they let Gary Barnidge go, so he's gonna play right away. Njoku, to me, and I watched 8 of Miami's games this year. Njoku was probably the second best player on the team in Miami, and particularly on the offense. He's going to catch a lot of balls, and he's going to get open downfield. So I like that. And of course, they got their quarterback, which they knew they were going to do, in taking Deshaun Kaiser. And even if Kaiser doesn't work out, they are strong enough to do it again and get a quarterback next year. So I don't think that Trubisky was good enough to be worth overspending and getting a number 1 pick. I don't even think Deshaun Watson was too. Me personally, I just wasn't sold on him. But you get the best athlete in the draft with that number 1 pick, and they did that. So that was great. Another winner before I go to the losers, I'm going to say Dallas. There's no bias here there's no bias here as a Dallas fan from me. Mm-hmm. They took 2 Michigan players. Of course, they took Taco Charlton, who of course, eventually after the selection, word got out that Taco was one of the few players that visited them that did not have a first-round grade. So, of course, people were questioning that. But Charlton was probably one of the better athletes that were rushing the edge that was available at the time. So that filled a need. Chidobe Awuzie, who is probably more famous because of Drew Pearson announcing his selection amidst all the booing Philadelphia fans, but he's actually a pretty darn good cover corner, and that's going to bolster the secondary, which took massive losses this in free agency. Actually, it took 3 of the 4 starters that Dallas lost, and they're going to get some compensatory picks too, so they're not done. And they also took Jordan Lewis, who's got some off the field issues, but they feel like he's going to get that cleared, and once he gets that handled, he'll be another potential cover corner. Maybe even move Orlando Skandrick away from the slot and bring him up to the field corner position, which of course adds depth. And they got a steal when Trubisky's number one guy, Ryan Switzer, fell to the Cowboys in the 4th round. Possibly enough. That's definitely an upgrade when Beasley eventually leaves for free agent money, because he's going to get it when he does become a free agent again. Switzer is a bigger, stronger, and actually he's an experienced punt returner, which is what Dallas desperately needs. So he can actually fill 2 needs right away. But I'm a Switzer guy. I actually got a chance to see him play against my Aggies, and he was just shifty and just dangerous anytime he got the ball in his hands. And I'm sure he's going to excite a lot of people in Dallas when he gets an opportunity. We already mentioned, you kind of mentioned Chicago, but do you see anybody else that you had questions about their draft selection?
Not so much their draft selection, it's who was in the war room over in Buffalo. Because the day after the draft, they were just like, so we're firing your GM. So, or your picks, who were these picks made by? Like, if the
These
GM wasn't in the war room.
Here's the thing. Whaley was just a figurehead. McDermott,
he was due for a firing. Yeah.
They knew. Well, basically, they just said, you just chill here. We got to get paperwork ready for you to be fired. And they let McDermott essentially run the entire draft.
Like, I didn't think anyone would get messier than the situation in Washington, where they literally have no GM. And here comes Buffalo, just being like, hold my beer. What?
And speaking of Washington,
and no one's talking about the situation. Washington still doesn't have a GM, and they haven't locked up their quarterback.
And they have
no one talking about
draft.
This?
How did that happen?
I mean,
how did they get Jonathan Allen?
They had a good draft despite having a GM, but still, I don't understand. I mean, I haven't understood that franchise since ever, but why is no one talking about the fact they have no GM and their quarter and their quote unquote, maybe, I don't know, franchise quarterback isn't locked up? I don't understand it.
Besides Chicago picking, moving up against themselves.
And that bitch Trubisky video was
they moved up against themselves to get Trubisky. They took Adam Shaheen in the 2nd round after paying Deion Sanders $10 million, while still having Zach Miller. So you have 3 pass catching tight ends. None can block. And then as much as I am, of course, my guy Tariq Cohen from A&T, you take him in the 4th round, which is a remarkable story. Tariq probably Tariq graded out as the number 5 rated running back in the draft, taking him in the 4th round. But you already got 2 young running backs already there in Jeremy Langford and Kadeem Carey. So what are you going to do with Tariq? So and on top of that, the Bears fans were crying for secondary and wide receiver help. I mean, they just let Alshon Jeffrey go to the Eagles, and they got neither. So definitely
what's his name? Mike Glenn was crying that night too.
Oh gosh, that was embarrassing too.
That was
how you bring him to the draft? How you invite him to the draft party with all the sponsors, and then
that's a move. Is like, we only signed you for some cover. That's really about it.
Yeah, but you know what? And they're like, well, he can be all right because he gets another free $19 million just to hold the clipboard, essentially. Because he'll start for the first 5 or 6 games, and then of course they're going to suck, and they will eventually bring Trubisky in because that's what the McCaskies do.
Gotta love people who fail up in America, huh?
Gotta love that nepotism. Gotta love it. But I think a lot of people feel that until the McCaskey regime ends, the Bears are just going to be stuck in the mud, and that's just the way it is. And then, it's not really a bad time to be in Chicago. even though the Blackhawks got swept, and the Bulls,
Yeah.
then the Bulls went out. The Bulls
My
went
whole
out
reason is
dumps.
my whole reason is just it gets cold. It gets real cold over there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the winners
No.
will be. The winners were just ugh. So yeah, that was rough. But I guess it's just gonna be a long wait until hockey season again. Pretty much. I mean, they do have the
Mm-hmm.
Cubs though. All right.
Yeah, they have the Cubs. They'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
I want that I want that no sound when Mike Glennon found out they drafted a quarterback. It's like right here. That'd be funny.
Yeah, because man, he really said that he felt cheated on.
I don't feel sorry for those who failed up. Sorry, not sorry.
I'm not
Like
either.
his whole career is literally people promising him, people promising him the prize and getting paid a lot of money for a promise, not getting that promise, so going somewhere else to get promised the number one spot, like the franchise job, and getting paid a lot of money to do that, and then going somewhere else. Nah, he'll be okay. Did Mike Glennon sign for the Chicago Bears thinking that this was going to be his opportunity? I don't understand. How does this man? I don't need numbers. I need some
I,
numbers.
I just see numbers and I'm like, dude, you're getting checks to hold the clipboard. Relax.
Oh, is your fair?
Relax. I mean,
Oh, he's from Chantilly. I didn't know that.
he's getting 19 million guaranteed, which is almost
Mm-hmm.
as much as the Washington football team's quarterback.
I didn't know. I'm looking at his Wikipedia. Like I didn't know he was from Chantilly,
Yeah.
Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
19. Yeah, but either way, it's just like he's living the American dream. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I'd be in Bears for that kind of money. I felt bad, but I also had to laugh.
Yeah. It's bad optics. It's bad media optics for the Bears to do that though. It just because you still have to win. See, the draft day, it's a good perspective here. The draft day is set up for your team to give fans a sense of hope and pride.
That's why
Anytime
Browns
you
fans
have
show up and
that,
show out. Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
That's why
anytime you
Browns
have,
fans show up and show out every year.
they do. They do.
Everybody does, really. But
And when you do something like this that makes you look bad on draft day and you get clowned by the media, your fans aren't going to trust you. But of course, these are the Bears, and their fans haven't probably trusted them in about 10 years. So, I mean, when you know, Jay Cutler, we can start there. We can start with not going out and getting a quarterback for Lovie Smith when they were good. We can go there. I mean, what more can you ask for? That's 10 years right there. So, Bears.
yeah,
Um,
Bears.
all right. Final segment. We got a few stories that we just want to throw back and talk about. In addition to the NFL draft, we had some free agent running backs get signed. First, I want to start with Beast Mode returning to the NFL after about 2 months of letting news leak out that Marshawn Lynch wanted to return to football. And then different reactions, or whether or not is he serious or is he going to Seattle or what's going on. Apparently, Lynch wanted to play for his hometown team. And immediately the Raiders went to work. Started wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, and before you knew it, right before the draft, the Raiders gave up a 6th-round pick and some cash for Marshawn Lynch to return to the NFL for the Oakland Raiders. Marshawn let out a tweet letting people know he actually, not only did he say let a tweet, he also let the people know he appreciated the fans, the Seattle fans, by taking a page in Seattle's main newspaper and just, thanking the owner, thanking the fans with 2 pictures, and now he's a Raider. Of course, I had a little fun with translating his tweet, and you can go see that on my timeline at TABALL number 1. It's getting close to 2,000 likes. It was a 2-part tweet. It's gotten well over 2,000 likes now. Just basically letting the people know what town business is. Town business is basically a description of Oakland life. It's a song by legendary Oakland artist Keek the Sneak. And he basically just wanted everybody to know that he's playing for the home team. But now let's talk about the football aspect of it, Jesse. What do you think about Marshawn coming back to Oakland?
It's fascinating because one, this is the most Oakland thing. This is the most Oakland thing that can ever happen. Just people from Oakland put up their city, and he does. So seeing that, I want to see how hard they're going to put up for Oakland before they move to Las Vegas. Another thing I want to know is that I think it'll be interesting to see if this starts a trend of players taking a year off from all the head injuries and the grind and the practice life for a little bit, and then coming back to the NFL. I think this could signal like a revolution of like, I wake up, I ball, I go to sleep, I ball some more. Then I want to take a break, I want to explore some things, and then I'll come back. So the only thing that kind of would raise my eyebrow on that theory is for running backs doesn't work as well as it would say for maybe a wide receiver. But it'd be interesting to see if this pattern takes in the NFL.
I think that that's an interesting take on it, because I didn't look at it that way. Because we normally think that when guys hang it up, it's changing a routine. But Lynch literally did a world tour. Some of it sponsored by Skittles, but a lot of it he did on his own. He literally took pictures from the pyramids of Giza all the way to Yacht Week to London. Literally around the world, in addition to hosting several charities with with some NFL friends and family. And so through his Beast Mode charity, he's done a lot for the city of Oakland in his downtime, particularly in the neighborhoods and dealing with kids. So I think that it's a interesting idea, particularly for running backs, because that they have short careers anyway. So maybe taking the year off from the punishment could help. But I personally think he signed a 2-year deal because I don't think he's going to see Vegas. I don't think he will play for the Vegas Raiders. I think he will stay in Oakland as long as Mike Davis does not move the team or play them in, let's say, San Antonio or in the UNLV stadium, provided that they do some additions over the next year. I think they play in Oakland for 2 years and then they go. But this is definitely a win-win for both teams, because now you get a back that runs your style for the Raiders. They let Latavius Murray go. He ended up in Minnesota. So Marshawn's going to have to be the guy. So we'll see. Um, Another story that came through this week. Uh, Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt Jr. announced his retirement after this season concludes. Um, Earnhardt had the most difficult task of following the legend that is his father, who's won seven. He won seven Winston Cup NASCAR championships. Um, he's considered to be probably the number two uh, driver of all time, next to Richard Petty, who's the king of the sport. Um, just talk about just talk about the impact of an Earnhardt retirement following a um, a Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon's retirement. I mean, just two giants of the sport just leaving like that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, the good thing for Dale Earnhardt is he was able to kind of do racing on his own terms. Sure, he had an immeasurable shadow that after from his father's career and after his father's death. I'm sure Don, who's one of our co-hosts, can speak a lot more to this, but I guess I don't know, maybe just from someone who keeps watching from the very, very, very from a very far distance. Um, yeah, he was definitely a personality, but and I guess learning more about you know his works and kind of what he stands for, especially the story of how his family used to fly Confederate flags, and then I guess they had a house worker who was like, this
mhm.
is what this means. This is really insulting, and it's kind of changing it on his head and telling people, hey, this is not what you think it stands for. It's gonna be really fascinating to see what he does next, and I wish him the best.
Um, I have a different perspective. Earnhardt drove for Hendrick Motorsports. I was a former Hendrick employee, um, and I had an internship with Terry Labonte Chevrolet, which is a local car dealership. So, as part of being employed by Hendrick, we did a lot of group activities. Um, Earnhardt did visit our dealership during my internship year. Uh, Very engaging. Um, you can actually see why he's one of the most revered drivers in NASCAR because he embraces the fans. In a fan friendly sport, he really embraces the NASCAR fan. And when you lose a guy like that, this is the equivalent of a a Bird leaving Indiana. Larry Bird also announced that he is stepping down from his his president and GM position of the Pacers. Um, this is similar to a Magic leaving, an ambassador. Uh, the difference between him and Jeff Gordon was that Gordon won a lot, but Gordon was seen as an outsider. Gordon was not the NASCAR guy. He's a California pretty boy. He's Tom Brady, essentially. Uh, while while Dale Earnhardt is more of a Manning, who's a football guy, football family. Earnhardt's a race guy, a race family. Who won his share, won a good share of races. Won the Daytona 500, won the big ones, uh, and that's really what at the end of the day people care about. Winning on the same track that his father passed away on was easily one of the biggest moments of his career, and he will he will go down in history as actually living up to the hype that he had to deal with as being an Earnhardt. Uh, we're gonna a little fun note here. We got another LeVar Ball story. Um,
Another one.
Another one, of course.
Uh,
Um, the
it
ball
was
so
fun. It
now.
was so fun. It was like, making Stephen A. Smith angry. But now I'm just like, sir, it's going to be okay. I don't know. I feel like he's going to have a coronary at any minute.
What is you doing? Well, of course, as you may have heard, that Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas, three major basketball shoe companies, announced that there will be no deal with Lonzo Ball post meetings with LeVar Ball, who is seeking to license the Big Baller brand. Um, it's funny that I mean, I'm one of the guys that actually has followed ball for about 3 years. Ever since I heard of Lonzo taking over a national circuit, I knew that the dad was wild. But this whole idea of licensing a brand is really innovative. It's something not that no other athlete has really tried to do before signing with a major company that has distribution. It's a first. It has a chance to win big, but you've got to deal with the fact that people are going to tell you no. And obviously LeVar is built for that. Um, but everybody's like, oh, he's costing his son money. He's gonna you know, the outcry is already in full throat. Um, he's costing his kids money. Uh, he's not gonna get the so-called shoe deal. The naysayers have already gone out. Even George Raveling, he had a mini feud with George Raveling, who spoke out before negotiations even began with Nike, saying that LeVar Ball is the worst guy to happen to the industry in 100 years, and Ball fires back. If I'm the worst, if I'm the worst guy in 100 years, that means I'm on a new wave. So, he's betting a lot on the kids. The kids are going to have to succeed. They're going to have to play. They're going to have to be good. Um, I feel sorry for the middle kid, Leangelo, who is likely the least talented of the three. Um, he's 6'1". He's he's got a real stocky build. I don't think he's going to get any taller. He's a big kid. So I don't know if his size and his ability is going to translate into I'm gonna say it flat out, into the league. I don't know if he's gonna be able to get his shots off because he's not as fast. He relies on playing bully ball, and being a 6'1", you're not 6'7". You're gonna well, he's probably about 6'2", 6'2", 6'3". Um, I don't know if you're gonna get those shots off. So it's a lot of pressure on the kids. I think LaMelo, the baby, can handle it because that kid is a special kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's got everything that Lonzo has, even more because he's cocky, and you kind of need that to be marketable, to have somebody to be somebody that the kids want to emulate. And LaMelo Ball has it. I said it from day one. LaMelo Ball, not only does he have the potential to be the best athlete of the three balls, he has the potential to be a face of somebody's franchise because he just has that swag. He has that quote unquote hip hop swagger. You can tell with his with his uh with his dribbling handle, his crazy fleeky hair. Um, even the cute braces that he has. It's just a lot of things that these 14, 15, 16-year olds are drawn to. But I'm really not sure if it's going to work out. I hope it does. Any take on that, Jess?
Those kids better ball, someone say. And I don't think we all know life in the NBA isn't what LeVar is going to imagine it to be. So.
Yeah. We'll see what Lonzo does next year.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts with him. They hope that he's going to be a Laker. I hope the lottery balls dictate that.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's going to be. That'll be interesting. Oh God, if we went to LA, that'd be a monster on monsters. Oof, nope. Good luck. Good luck, everyone. Good luck to everyone involved in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and the sidebar on this, before we move on, the sidebar to this is that, does the concept of what he did work? Yes. There are 9 kids that are going, including his 3. There are 6 other kids that are definitely going to get D1 scholarships because of what he did for his boys. And that is going to be probably the most underlooked and underappreciated thing in this whole story. Those other kids would not have gotten any of those looks, those mid-level Division 1 looks and get to college if it were not for LeVar Ball. So I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that he's there for the Eli Scotts of the world, who they adopted and took him in, and now he's going to Loyola Marymount on a full scholarship. That's just great. I agree with that. Now, I don't like the fact that they had the fallout with the
The
Chino Hills High
coaches.
School coach.
Right.
But there's a deeper line of that too. LeVar, in his his day job, he's a personal trainer. The Chino Hills coach, who's now the former coach, as he was fired, he was one of LeVar's students that went through LeVar's training program. Ended up playing for Chino Hills. Ended up going to basketball. Ended up going to college on a scholarship. So LeVar feels like that's one of those "I made you" type situations, which doesn't look good for any of the parties involved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, LeVar said that he will not be the coach of Chino Hills this coming season, but he said he will definitely have a role in who is, which means basically you better
He's
do
running
as
the
I
team.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
no question about it. I mean, and Chino Hills isn't going to say anything because they just 3 years ago they were irrelevant in that area of basketball, and now they're on stage playing again. You know, national
On national
championship,
television. Mm-hmm.
national championship, national runner up. Uh, they're getting games against Matter Die, who's going to be another great story in itself. Um, they have Matter Die has Manute Bol's son, Bol, and then they've had games against. Next year they're going to be playing against Shaq's kid, Sharif O'Neal, who's at Crossroads, and also Ron Artest, Meta World Peace's son, Ron Artest Jr., is in Beverly Hills. So all these kids are playing against each other, and Chino Hills has knocked them all off. So LeVar's method works. His method and coaching style and his offense works. So what are they going to do?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation, to say the least, and something that we'll keep watch on. Just a reminder that you're listening to Know the Score on the CSPN, and we are approaching the last segment of the show where we give our final thoughts. Um, Jess, is there anything that you wanted to say before you close out?
Sure. So, this point, as many have heard, so the Orioles don't play at Fenway Park. And I'll try to make this quick, but I'm
No, we
sure
can
you've
talk.
heard. Yeah. So really quickly, Adam Jones is subjected to all sorts of racial abuse. Peanuts were thrown at him. Everyone says that we don't stand for this. We do not condone this. All the strong things everyone says when racism shows ugly head. Um, I'm also one to say, oh, look at Boston being Boston, but fact is, this is everywhere. We can't really just, as a people, well, not as a people, but Americans in general. I'm kind of just sick of the whole narrative of, oh, we can't stand for this. Like, we stand for this every day when all sorts of microaggressions and passive aggressive, moments of racism and white supremacy rear their ugly head every day. That goes silent, but only if it's obvious to, the majority. It's when it's like, oh, we don't stand for this. So some people are really asleep. They're going to I think, this is America. This is what we are. If we don't come to a head of it, come to head with it. Uh, yeah.
Meanwhile, as this is going on, you got a situation at the University of Texas at Austin. Uh, you had a student stabbing. Caricatures, the minstrel type of caricatures, were passed out on the campus, saying beware and protect yourselves, clearly depicting a minstrel character of a black man holding a knife. Literally some 1,500 miles away from Boston, you got that going on. Boston Globe published an article about the KKK coming into an agreement with other white supremacy groups. That happened just days before this Adam Jones incident at Fenway Park. Everything that you hear that goes on in Chicago is deeply rooted in racism and segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about just the violence that's sensationalized when you do statistical numbers, but just the separation of education has all of that has racial tension, has racial roots. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, so I know. I mean, I walk by the Civil Rights Museum in Greensboro every day, the F.W. Woolworth's restaurant, which has been turned into the International Civil Rights Museum. I walk by that museum every day. I get reminded every day. I am an alum of North Carolina A&T. The Greensboro Fort is literally the first thing we learn on campus, if we don't know it already, being that 80% of our 80% of our students are North Carolina residents. It's in our history. You know about the Greensboro Fort. Martin Luther King was supposed to speak in Greensboro on April 4th, 1968. He canceled that speech and spent an extra night in Memphis. Everyone knows what happened after that. I just named you 4 different instances in 4 cities, covering about 5,000 miles. Racism's everywhere. It's not just limited to Boston. But if we aren't willing as a people to come together And not only that, if the majority does not acknowledge that it exists, and not only the blatant stuff, but the subtle stuff too, then we're not going anywhere. I'm not going to say that the entire city as a whole is racist, but I'm not going to go not all, not all, not all too. You have to acknowledge that it exists
Yep.
before you say, well, you can't say the whole city is racist because of acts of a few. People need to be educated. Good,
And
you
people
know.
need to also like acknowledge the
Yeah,
experiences of the marginalized as well.
yeah. Don't say that because you didn't see it that it didn't happen. That's minimizing and marginalizing it in itself. Um, my final word, very personal word. Um, Also, this week we had a uh, very sad news to hit the industry. Um, the ESPN via Disney announced that it has laid off 100 100 people. This is the second round of layoffs that that the network has gone through. This time it really hit home because several people that you have seen on television, if you watch ESPN, were let go. Years and years of service. It didn't matter. Several of the employees had well over 10 years of experience. Uh, there were voices that you relied on as far as giving you the up-to-date news. So yes, it was very, very sad to hear. And it really hit home for me personally because on on March 7th, I was laid off of my job where I worked for 10 years. Um, so I definitely know how it feels. Um, the whole aspect of, going through and looking for a new job in this industry is tough. Um, Doing what you can and not hearing from anybody, not hearing from the countless number of applications that you send out. The process is tiring. The process can be frustrating. And my heart goes out to those guys because those guys loved what their guys are doing exactly what they love to do. And some of those folks that were laid off moved their families to Bristol, um, literally literally changed their lives to be with ESPN. ESPN is considered to be a dream place to work if you're a sports fan. So as a sports fan myself, my heart goes out to everyone who joined the ranks of the unemployed this week. Um,
Right.
we're thinking about you. We know that you're going to be out there somewhere. Um, we hope that you will land in a great place and just as many of them closed out their careers at ESPN via the spoken word or via the tweet. A lot of them said that they aren't retiring. This is not the end. And once I heard that, I know that this isn't the end for me in my career. So I wanted to take that to heart as I close the show today.
And can y'all like, I mean, not y'all, but like, can the internet stop being like, why didn't X get fired? You broke boys.
Thank
Jealous.
you. Thank you. Because that was really disheartening for me to hear. Um, Especially when certain folks got extensions before this happened, which means they were a moot point. Your favorite network is going through changes.
So is the industry.
And so is
Yeah.
so is the industry. I mean, we're talking to you in a digital space. That's the wave of the future. Uh, it is what it is. And either we're going to have to be in a situation where we just learn how to, as in nature, we say cross pollinate, uh, be willing to learn a new skill if necessary, or just get better and perfect the skills we already have.
Yep. Indeed.
One, two, three. And that will conclude our show here today at Know the Score. Just a reminder that you've been listening to Know the Score on the CSPN. For our producer, Classic Materia, our co-creator, Mel, also known as Beauty Jackson, our host, Tobias Wilborn, Don Delarente, That's So Jesse, and myself. You now know the score.
Bye.
Cool.